The Terminator is considered one of the pillars of modern action cinema, and rightfully so. Sequels, anime, video games, toys, all because of a flu-induced nightmare and a man who had the desire to create. But as of this video, we are 5 sequels in, and it's safe to say, well, the Terminator franchise has lost the plot.
You grew a conscience?
The equivalent to one, yes.
40 plus years after Sarah Connor drove off into the oncoming storm, I'm thinking maybe it's time we get back to basics. Get back to the horror-adjacent tone of the original. Because, as much as the sequel T2 gets a ton of love, and, deservedly so, the Terminator and its thrill elements are a part of the past I long for. An unstoppable killer, a continuous chase, the dread, the paranoia. So today let's give some love to the original, to Cameron's The Terminator. Discuss why it's persevered, and of course, the scene that defines it. I'm Lance Vlcek. This is Scene Breakdown. The quaint story, at least compared to some of the later sequels, follows Sarah Connor as she's protected by a soldier from the future as they try and escape the path of a killer cyborg. It's a more intimate story, and one that does a great job of laying out the world building and stakes on a small budget. Now, there's an argument that a tale this big, an AI apocalypse, war for humanity and time travel would best be suited for a higher budget. But there's a certain charm to Cameron's workarounds, and giving us enough to fill in the holes while keeping this a simple and thrilling chase. How do we show a futuristic war with man versus machines on a $6.5 million budget? Through Kyle Reese's PTSD flashbacks. Cameron keeps the frame tight, sets it at night, and uses every trick in the book. Miniatures, rear projection, and a shit ton of fog. But it works, it's believable, and sets the style and tone that we'd associate with a future setting going forward. And real quick, a side tangent. But this is why Salvation didn't work. Despite such a strong cast, all we've ever wanted was a Terminator sequel to show us the war. And this did not match the world we were promised. It should have been mostly night shoots. And then listen, if you want to shoot something during the day, the desaturation on what is clearly a beautiful blue sky doesn't feel apocalyptic enough. No, this should have felt more like what The Road did years later. Devastation and utter sadness. Not to mention the phased plasma guns, lasers, and grittiness we were all hoping for was just gone. And don't get me started, it's about a different timeline. Yeah, no. It's a missed opportunity, and one we're clearly never getting. All I've ever wanted was a story set within the war that was shown to us in part 1 and 2. But I digress. The Terminator is a classic, right? The most influential sci-fi action thrillers. It's dark, it's mean, it doesn't pull its punches. So then what scene accurately defines it? To be honest, there are a few that can fit the bill, and ones that have become staples in conversation when discussing the movie. Maybe I'm dating myself, but the T-800 doing a mini surgery post the cop car crash creeped out a younger me. Yeah, maybe the effects are a tad janky today, but the music, the lighting, and the moodiness really sells how indestructible this thing really is. Of course, the Terminator is not a horror movie, but this is kind of a horror scene.
It's just him and me.
Of course, maybe my personal favorite is the police station massacre, a true show of force, and in a place you couldn't be safer. We get the great Lance Henriksen, Paul Winfield, and Schwarzenegger as an unstoppable killing machine. We got Sarah hiding behind the desk as the gunshots ring out. Plus Arnold looks totally menacing with his AR-18 and SPAS-12. Every cop has a gun, yet no one stands a chance. There's even an argument about the last scene set in Mexico. That warm desert sun surrounds everything as Sarah, now very pregnant, leaving messages for her future son. It's both optimistic yet ominous. The end is coming, but there's a renewed sense of hope. Driving off into the oncoming storm, solid metaphor, and a beautiful shot.
He said there's a storm coming in.
But I think it's hard to argue that when we think of the Terminator, the defining scene must be the Tech Noir nightclub. Up to this point, the police believe they have a serial killer on their hands, one that has an oddly specific hatred towards the name Sarah Connor. And once our Sarah becomes wise, she knows who this psycho is. Cut to Kyle Reese and the amazing Michael Biehn.
Cyborgs don't feel pain.
I do.
who comes with a perfect amount of intensity and plays Kyle Reese with that war-torn aura that seems quite psychotic. So Sarah heads into the nearest building, which happens to be a nightclub. Up until this point, the T-800 kills were all somewhat low-key. I mean, even the death of the great Dick Miller. I mean, the guy who always commands the screen, let's be honest. Yeah, it may have been an open business, but he was still alone. So it is somewhat reasonable to think Sarah could be safe hiding within a crowd in such a loud, lively place. And this is the first time our three leads come together. The T-800 walking in with laser focus, and yeah, that bouncer ain't doing shit. Just missing Sarah as she knocks over her Canadian Dry. Dance pop and colored lights, it's a strange setting for building tension, but it works. You know, something will go down, but what? I mean, I always like to look at this as if it was, mine or your first viewing. Sarah sees her supposed killer, Kyle, looking back via the mirror. The pop music drowns out as we get the thumping score, and Cameron gives us the perfect composition showing off the true killer. One in center frame as he pushes forward, giving zero f***s. Even the camera is at Arnold's level, towering over Linda. And nothing more intimidating than the T-800 racking his 45. Then everything goes to hell. We get a fantastic shootout. Innocence mowed down, Linda's trapped under a body, and Reese saves the day via his sawed-off shotgun. Tracking beam as the camera follows and blowing the Terminator out the window. Then, one of the most iconic line reads.
Come with me if you want to live.
Before we continue with our video, here's a reminder to click the Store tab on any of our JoBlo channels and browse our collection of the latest and freshest designs in our merch store. Go get you some.
We got a real sense of Arnold's Terminator in full action. His stoic demeanor, robotic movements, even how he handles his firearms is carefully mapped. There's an oddness here. Michael Biehn plays Reese on edge with a serious case of PTSD and plays the action star with ease. The man looks super comfortable whipping around his sawed-off, while Linda Hamilton's Sarah Connor feels like an innocent person in the wrong place at the wrong time. This scene with the laser sight covering her forehead, but she could do nothing, she's frozen in fear. Sarah is not a warrior yet, she's just a waitress trying to live. For my money, it's this scene. The Terminator is a brilliant movie. 4 stars, it's a classic, right? And there's all these little moments that define why it works, from action to drama to thrills. The Terminator masterfully blends visual style, suspense, and character dynamics. It's stressful, violent, and has that gritty, grimy tone that the series has yet to revisit. I wish we could go back to this in some way. I'm done with the big action. I want these personal, scary, and stressful stories. And I hope we can show this to a younger generation, and in doing so provide the earlier works of the type of action we take for granted now. As time marches forward, it's always good to look back to know where we came from. This is, and will always be, a classic.
You're a terminated fucker.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo remains an independent company, and we appreciate all of your support.